The coin flip prior to 1985. The National Basketball Association determines the first overall draft pick through a simple 50-50 proposition known as the coin flip. This method pits the teams with the worst regular season records from the Eastern and Western conferences against each other for the rights to the number 1 selection. While straightforward, the system creates a perverse incentive structure where losing games becomes a viable and even strategically sound team-building approach, because a 50% chance at a generational talent is a far better odd than most teams have at winning a championship. The league's competitive integrity is openly compromised by teams actively trying to secure the worst possible record. This flawed system reaches its logical conclusion with the 1984 draft, which features the final coin toss for the top pick. The Houston Rockets win the toss against the Indiana Pacers, allowing them to select Hakeem Olajuwon, a 7-0 center who would go on to become a league MVP. The blatant tanking required for a team to enter this high-stakes coin flip becomes a public relations nightmare for the league, as fans and media alike criticize the practice of intentionally losing. The Rockets had also secured the number 1 pick in 1983, using it to draft 7 feet 4 inches center Ralph Sampson. The outcry over this competitive imbalance forces the league to abandon the coin flip entirely. In response to the growing criticism, the NBA introduces a new weighted lottery system for the 1985 draft, a process that begins with 7 sealed envelopes and launches the most enduring conspiracy theory in league history: the envelopes to combat the negative perception of tanking. The NBA implements a new lottery system for the 1985 draft, a mechanism designed to introduce randomness into the process of awarding the top pick. The inaugural system involves the 7 teams that failed to make the playoffs, with each team's logo sealed inside an identical envelope. These 7 envelopes are then placed into a large, transparent acrylic drum and tumbled before being drawn one by the league's new commissioner, David Stern. The process is broadcast live on national television, with the order of selection determining the draft picks in reverse, creating a dramatic reveal for the coveted number 1 spot, while the intention is to create a more equitable and transparent method for assigning draft picks. The very simplicity of the envelope system ironically makes it a target for widespread suspicion. The physical nature of the process, relying on a man pulling folded cards out of a container, invites speculation about potential sleight of hand in a way a purely mechanical or digital system might not. The televised ceremony itself adds a layer of showmanship that blurs the line between sporting procedure and entertainment. This reliance on a seemingly low-tech and manually operated drawing provides the perfect visual evidence for skeptics to analyze frame by frame. The rudimentary nature of the 1985 lottery draw directly fuels what would become the most significant and debated fixed theory in the history of professional sports: the frozen envelope. Frozen envelope, the inaugural 1985 NBA draft lottery, becomes the origin point for the most pervasive and debated conspiracy theory in the sport's history, centered on Georgetown's 7'0" star center, Patrick Ewing. Ewing is a consensus generational talent, and the New York Knicks, the league's flagship franchise and its largest media market, are one of the 7 teams with a chance to draft him. Theorists proposed that for the financial health of the entire league, it was imperative for Ewing to land in New York, a move that would revitalize a struggling but essential franchise. The theory posits that the league, led by Commissioner David Stern, ensured this outcome through a cleverly manipulated but visually simple process. The evidence cited by proponents of the theory stems from a frame-by-frame analysis of the televised broadcast. As Stern reaches into the acrylic drum, he appears to select an envelope that has a noticeably creased or bent corner, distinguishing it from the others. Some viewers also claim to hear a distinct thud as Stern slams this specific envelope against the side of the drum before opening it to reveal the Knicks logo. Stern himself would deny and often joke about the theory for decades, once quipping that the real conspiracy was that he was an alien. This combination of a supposedly marked envelope and Stern's physical handling of the draw creates a compelling visual narrative of a fixed lottery. The immense controversy and suspicion generated by the Ewing lottery directly leads to further reforms of the system, but it fails to stop theories from emerging when back-to-back lottery wins create a new dynasty. In an unlikely expansion market, Shaq and Penny, the Orlando Magic, a young expansion franchise founded just 3 years prior in 1989, secures the number 1 overall pick in the 1992 NBA Draft Lottery. This allows them to select Shaquille O'Neal, a physically dominant 7'1" center from Louisiana State University. immediately providing the team with a foundational superstar. The following year, the Magic once again defied statistical probability by winning the 1993 draft lottery. Despite not having the worst record, this second victory is particularly shocking because the team entered the drawing with the worst possible odds among the lottery teams, holding just a single ping pong ball. That represented a meager 1.52% chance of landing the number 1 selection. Instead of keeping the pick, the Magic select University of Michigan forward Chris Webber and immediately trade his draft rights to the Golden State Warriors. In return, Orlando receives the rights to the number 3 pick, guard Anthony Penny Hardaway, along with 3 future first-round picks. This calculated move pairs the overwhelming interior force of O'Neal with the dynamic playmaking of Hardaway, instantly forming one of the most marketable and formidable duos in the entire league. The league had moved to a weighted ping pong ball system in 1990, making this specific outcome even more scrutinized by the public. The incredible fortune of the Magic is viewed by skeptics not as an isolated incident, but as the most glaring example of a broader, geographically convenient pattern of lottery wins along the East Coast during the early 1990s. I-95 corridor between the years 1990 and 1993. A statistically improbable pattern emerges in the NBA draft lottery results. As for consecutive number 1 overall picks are awarded to franchises located on the East Coast. This sequence begins in 1990 when the New Jersey Nets select Derrick Coleman, followed by the Charlotte Hornets drafting Larry Johnson in 1991. The streak is then capped by the Orlando Magic's back-to-back victories, which allow them to acquire Shaquille O'Neal in 1992 and Chris Webber in 1993. The geographical clustering of these wins is particularly notable, as all 3 franchises are situated in cities directly accessible via the major Interstate 95 highway. This I-95 corridor theory suggests that the league is deliberately placing franchise-altering talent in specific, growing Eastern Conference markets to foster new rivalries and expand its fan base. The Hornets and Magic were both recent expansion teams, making the sudden influx of superstar talent seem especially convenient for the league's overall business strategy. This string of outcomes fuels a narrative that the lottery is not a game of chance, but rather a tool for league offense to engage in strategic market development. The fact that this streak occurred immediately after the lottery switched to a supposedly more secure ping pong ball system did little to quell the public's suspicion. This perceived pattern of rewarding specific geographical regions only intensifies speculation about the lottery's integrity, a suspicion that reemerges when the league's next marketing phenom is conveniently delivered to another major East Coast city in desperate need of a star. The answer: the Philadelphia 76ers entered the 1996 NBA Draft Lottery with the second-best odds to win, a position that makes their eventual victory a notable, but not impossible outcome. Their win allows them to select Allen Iverson, a dynamic 6'0" guard from Georgetown University, who is widely considered the most exciting and marketable player in the draft class. The timing of this outcome is particularly significant, as the league is actively seeking its next generation of superstars to build around. In anticipation of Michael Jordan's eventual retirement, Iverson, with his electrifying style of play and compelling personal backstory, represents the perfect candidate to capture the public's imagination and carry the league's marketing into a new era. The theory suggests that the league recognized the immense value of placing a cultural phenom like Iverson with a historic but struggling franchise in a major media market like Philadelphia. The 76ers, a team with a rich legacy including players like Julius Erving and Wilt Chamberlain, had fallen on hard times, and Iverson's arrival provides an immediate and desperately needed jolt of relevance. His crossover dribble and unapologetic style would come to define the league's aesthetic for the next decade. This seemingly perfect match between player, team, and market need is viewed by skeptics as another convenient lottery outcome designed to maximize the league's commercial potential. While this theory centers on the league's need to create a new star, the very next lottery controversy arises from a single, timely injury that allows an already established franchise to secure its long-term future. One bad year during the 1996-97 season, the San Antonio Spurs, a consistent playoff contender, are derailed when their superstar center and 1995 league MVP, David Robinson, is sidelined by injuries for all but 6 games. The loss of their franchise player causes the team's performance to plummet, as they finish the season with a dismal 20-60 to record, the 3rd worst in the entire league. This dramatic downturn in fortune, however, positions them favorably for the upcoming draft lottery, granting them a 21.6% probability of securing the number 1 overall pick. The prize for that year's lottery is Wake Forest senior Tim Duncan, a 6 feet 11 inches power forward who is universally regarded as a franchise-altering, can't-miss prospect. The lottery drawing unfolds in a manner that theorists consider suspiciously perfect, as the San Antonio Spurs indeed win the top selection. This allows them to draft Tim Duncan, creating a dominant frontcourt pairing with the returning David Robinson that would become known as the Twin Towers. Skeptics argue that this outcome conveniently rewards one of the league's model small market franchises, allowing a well-run organization to avoid a lengthy rebuild and instead launch a new dynasty from a single, fortunate season of injury. The Spurs would go on to win 5 championships over the next decades. With Duncan as their cornerstone, the single-season collapse and subsequent lottery victory are viewed as the perfect narrative, creating a 20-year dynasty from one catastrophic but ultimately beneficial year. While the Spurs' victory appeared to reward a model organization, the next controversial lottery result seems to be a direct favor to the league's most important individual, Jordan's Wizards. In January 2000, Michael Jordan transitions from the league's greatest player into an executive role, becoming the president of basketball operations for the Washington Wizards, after the team finishes the 2001 season with a deeply disappointing 19-63 record. Speculation intensifies that Jordan will come out of retirement a second time to play for the struggling franchise he now runs. This context transforms the 2001 NBA Draft Lottery from a standard league procedure into an event of immense significance. The prospect of Jordan's return is a potential financial windfall for the entire NBA, promising a massive surge in ticket sales, merchandise, and national television ratings. Consequently, when the Washington Wizards win the 2001 lottery despite not having the worst record, it is immediately viewed with deep suspicion by the public. The theory posits that the league orchestrated this outcome as a direct reward, an incentive for Jordan, providing his team with the number 1 overall pick to build around for his comeback. The Wizards used this selection to draft Quinn Brown, the first high school player ever chosen with the top pick, adding another layer of historical intrigue to the situation. Ironically, Brown would become one of the most notorious draft busts in league history, failing to live up to the immense expectations. The idea that the league would intervene to support its most important figure sets a powerful precedent in the minds of conspiracy theorists. This narrative of a lottery being manipulated for the perfect hometown story is amplified exponentially just 2 years later when the prize is the most hyped prospect since Jordan himself. The chosen one, the 2003 NBA Draft Lottery, is defined by the presence of a single, unprecedented prospect, LeBron James, a high school basketball phenom from Akron, Ohio. James receives national media attention on a scale never before seen for a teenage athlete, with his games being broadcast on ESPN and his face gracing the cover of Sports Illustrated. Under the headline The Chosen One, he is widely considered the most complete and surefire prospect since Lou Alcindor entered the league in 1969, representing a franchise-altering and marketing goldmine for whichever team secures his draft rights. The Cleveland Cavaliers, a struggling franchise located just 40 miles from James's hometown, enter the lottery with a 20.5% chance of winning the top pick, tied for the best odds in the field. When the final envelope reveals that the Cleveland Cavaliers have indeed won the number 1 selection, it is immediately framed by many as a narrative that is simply too perfect to be the result of random chance. The league is gifted the ultimate hometown hero story, a marketing dream that provides a clear successor to Michael Jordan's throne as the NBA's global icon. Skeptics argue that the financial implications of placing LeBron James in Cleveland, revitalizing the dormant market, and creating a compelling multi-year storyline provided a powerful motive for the league to ensure a specific outcome. The selection instantly makes the Cavaliers one of the most watched teams in the league, placing immense pressure on an 18-year-old to save a franchise. The perceived convenience of this result solidifies the hometown hero narrative as a recurring lottery conspiracy, a theme that resurfaces 5 years later when another struggling Midwestern franchise wins the lottery against even longer odds. Hometown kid. The Chicago Bulls enter the 2008 NBA Draft Lottery with a minuscule 1.7% chance of winning the number 1 overall pick. This statistical improbability means the team has a 98.3% chance of selecting ninth, or lower in the draft order, a position that rarely yields a franchise-altering talent. The consensus top prospect in the year's draft is Derrick Rose, an explosive point guard from the University of Memphis who is also a beloved native son of Chicago. Against these staggering odds, the Bulls logo is the last one revealed, granting them the top selection in a moment of seemingly impossible lottery fortune. The selection of Derrick Rose by his hometown team provides the Chicago Bulls franchise with its most compelling storyline since the retirement of Michael Jordan a decade earlier. The theory posits that the league orchestrated this outcome to revitalize one of its most iconic franchises, which had struggled for years to recapture national relevance, placing the homegrown, electrifying talent in the nation as third largest media market is viewed by skeptics as a calculated business decision rather than a random bounce of ping-pong balls. Rose would go on to become the youngest MVP in league history just 3 years later, fully validating the pick's transformative potential. While the Rose theory centers on the league's desire to boost a major market, the next lottery controversy involves a situation where the league's financial interests are even more direct, as the NBA itself becomes the owner of a team that wins the draft's ultimate prize. League-owned, the 2012 NBA Draft Lottery unfolds under a set of unprecedented and highly controversial circumstances. The New Orleans Hornets, one of the teams in the lottery, is at that time owned and operated by the NBA itself after the league purchased the franchise from its previous owner, George Shinn, in December 2010. This creates a direct and undeniable conflict of interest, as the very entity administering the lottery also stands to benefit from its outcome. The grand prize of this draft is Anthony Davis, a 6'10" power forward from the University of Kentucky who is considered a once-in-a-generation talent capable of single-handedly changing a franchise's fortunes. Despite having only the fourth best odds at 13.7%, the league-owned Hornets win the #1 overall pick. This outcome immediately gives rise to one of the most compelling fixed theories, as the league possesses a clear and substantial financial motive to award the pick to the Hornets. Securing a superstar like Anthony Davis makes the struggling franchise infinitely more valuable and attractive to potential buyers, which was the league's stated goal since taking over the team. The theory posits that the lottery win was a calculated business decision to guarantee a high sell price and ensure the team has long-term stability in New Orleans. The team was officially sold to new owner Tom Benson just 1 month after winning the lottery, a sequence of events that only amplified public suspicion. The direct conflict of interest makes the 2012 lottery a flashpoint for criticism. While this incident centers on the league's own financial gain, the very next string of lottery improbabilities focuses on the almost unbelievable luck of a single, controversial team owner, Gilbert's luck. Following LeBron James's departure to Miami in 2010, the Cleveland Cavaliers franchise, led by outspoken owner Dan Gilbert, experiences an unprecedented and statistically improbable string of lottery victories. The team secures the #1 overall pick 3 times in a 4-year span, a run of good fortune that defies mathematical explanation. This streak begins in 2011 when they draft guard Kyrie Irving, continues with the selection of forward Anthony Bennett in 2013, and is capped off by another win in 2014 for the rights to draft Andrew Wiggins. The combined odds of a single team winning the lottery 3 times and for seasons are estimated to be approximately 1 in 8,000, a figure so remote that it fuels widespread speculation of league intervention. The conspiracy theory solidifies around the 2014 lottery win, which is viewed as a crucial and conveniently timed event. The #1 pick, Andrew Wiggins, becomes the central asset in a trade that brings all-star power forward Kevin Love to Cleveland. This move creates a big 3 alongside Kyrie Irving and is widely seen as the final prerequisite needed to lure LeBron James back to his hometown team. Later that summer, skeptics argue this incredible run of luck was no coincidence, but rather a deliberate league effort to first compensate the Cavaliers for losing their superstar, and then to orchestrate the perfect narrative for his celebrated return. This theory presents the ultimate irony, as Gilbert had famously and publicly condemned James just 4 years earlier. The Cavaliers' unbelievable fortune, coupled with the rising strategic trend of tanking, eventually forces the league to fundamentally reevaluate the entire lottery process, leading to the most significant structural changes in the system's history. Flattened ODDS in response to the growing public perception that teams are strategically losing, a practice commonly known as tanking. The the NBA institutes a significant reform of the lottery system ahead of the 2019 draft. The league's primary objective is to disincentivize the race to the bottom by altering the probability structure that previously gave the team with the worst record a 25% chance at the number 1 pick. Under the new rules, the 3 teams with the worst regular season records now share identical 14% odds for the top selection. This change is specifically designed to remove the competitive advantage of finishing in last place, thereby encouraging teams to remain competitive for longer stretches of the season. The reform's most significant consequence is a redistribution of odds that dramatically increases the volatility of the entire lottery process. By lowering the chances for the teams at the very bottom, the league is able to increase the odds for teams in the middle and lower tiers of the lottery, making large jumps up the draft board far more common. Additionally, the lottery now determines the top 4 picks instead of the top 3, further expanding the potential for chaotic and unexpected outcomes. This change, intended to make the results feel less predetermined, ironically creates outcomes that seem even more improbable. The immediate impact of this new volatility is put on full display during the very first lottery conducted under the reformed rules, as a team with just a 6% chance at the top pick wins the rights to draft the most anticipated prospect since LeBron James. Zion's Pelicans, the 2019 NBA Draft Lottery, serves as the first major test of the league's newly reformed system, which was designed to increase volatility and discourage tanking. The New Orleans Pelicans enter the drawing with just a 6% chance of securing the top pick, a direct result of the flattened odds. This situation occurs just months after their franchise player, 6-time All-Star Anthony Davis, publicly demands a trade, placing the small market franchise in a precarious and highly publicized state of crisis. The prize for this lottery is Zion Williamson, a 6'6", 285-pound forward from Duke University, who is the most heavily hyped prospect to enter the NBA since LeBron James in 2003. Against these low odds, the New Orleans Pelicans win the lottery, an outcome that is immediately viewed by skeptics as suspiciously convenient. The theory posits that this was not a random result, but a direct intervention by the league to protect one of its vulnerable franchises from collapse. The perfect sequence of events allows the Pelicans to trade the disgruntled Anthony Davis for a massive haul of assets while simultaneously acquiring a new, even more marketable superstar to be the face of their franchise. The optics of a small market team being completely gutted by a superstar's trade demand are a public relations nightmare for the league office. This stunning lottery victory is seen as the ultimate bailout, a perfectly timed miracle that ensures the team's immediate and future relevance. The Zion outcome reinforces the narrative that the lottery provides saviors to franchises in need, a theme that reappears with even greater intensity when the league's next greatest prospect in history enters the draft 4 years later. Wemby, the 2023 NBA Draft Lottery concludes with the San Antonio Spurs winning the first overall pick, securing the rights to the most anticipated prospect in more than a generation. The prize is Victor Wembanyama, a 7 feet 4 inches French phenom whose unprecedented combination of size, guard skills, and defensive instincts leads analysts to label him the greatest prospect in basketball history. The Spurs, one of 3 teams sharing the best possible odds at 14% under the league's reformed lottery system, land the player universally expected to define the league's next era. This outcome instantly provides one of the NBA's most respected small market franchises with a clear path back to championship contention after a multi-year rebuilding process. The conspiracy theory surrounding this particular lottery win centers on the narrative of the league, rewarding a model organization for conducting its business the right way. Unlike theories based on a financial bailout for a major market, this one suggests the NBA has a vested interest in ensuring its most stable and well-run franchises remain pillars of the league. The San Antonio Spurs, with their 5 championships and decades of sustained excellence, represent the gold standard for small market success. Therefore, placing a generational talent like Wembanyama in their proven developmental system is seen by skeptics as a strategic move to protect a valuable league asset. This mirrors their 1997 lottery win that landed them Tim Duncan, creating a powerful sense of historical symmetry. The delivery of a historic prospect to a historic franchise provides a compelling narrative of earned success, but the randomness introduced by the flattened odds system produces a completely chaotic and unpredictable result just 1 year later. The 3% jump the 2024 NBA Draft Lottery produces one of the most statistically shocking results in the event's history as the Atlanta Hawks win the #1 overall pick. The Hawks entered the drawing with just a 3% probability of landing the top selection, a figure that underscores the extreme unlikelihood of their victory. This outcome required the team to jump 9 spots up the draft board, moving from their projected 10th position all the way to first. This leap is recorded as the 5th largest jump to the top spot since the lottery's inception, a direct and dramatic consequence of the league's decision to flatten the odds in 2019. Unlike many of the controversial lottery wins of the past, the Hawks' victory lacks a clear and compelling conspiratorial narrative that benefits a major market, rewards a model franchise, or provides a perfect hometown hero story. This absence of a convenient motive leads to a different kind of conclusion, that the reformed lottery system has successfully injected a level of pure, unpredictable chaos into the process. The result serves as a powerful counterargument to the idea of a fixed system, suggesting that the odds are now so distributed that a truly random and unexpected outcome is not only possible, but inevitable. Ironically, a system designed to appear more fair produces a result so improbable that it still fuels disbelief among fans. The 2024 lottery, therefore, leaves the public to grapple with a final, central question. Is the draft's outcome guided by a hidden hand? Or has the league finally created a system so volatile that it is truly and provably left to chance?